All right, Alexis, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. I want to go home. I'm tired. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Commencing roll call. Reginald Dewitt. Reginald Dewitt.
Yes, so sorry. Hey.
Okay. Alexis Lewis.
Here.
Bill McClure.
Here.
Shirley Melnico.
Here.
Halima Salahuddin.
Here.
Rob Solano.
Here.
And James Simmons.
Here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Now we're going to move to the time that's open for comments from the general public for any item that's not on the agenda. We have 2 minutes for each speaker. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Members of the public, if you wish to speak on item number 2, general public comment, you may use the raise hand feature on Zoom or submit a speaker slip up to the clerk. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak. We have Jose Reyes. You may begin when you're ready.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. I haven't been here in a while, so it's a little nervous again. Back to the beginning. All right, here we go. I want to thank San Mateo County, the Board of Supervisors, and the ICAC Board for their concern for the homelessness. We never know what hardships life will have us go through. Everyone's story is different. Poverty, drugs, incarceration, or unfortunate circumstances were all of the above. For me, it was all of the above. 7 years ago, I fell at work. Metro Electric starving me, stopped my income, disabled, unable to return to work. I thank God for the San Mateo County Navigation Center for getting me off the streets and their programs that they offer support. Were it not for this program, I would have been on the streets dealing with my mother, my injuries, my mother going through 2 strokes, tumors on her brains, and leukemia cancer that we just found out. Holding it together, I thank God in my life. Making it on a waiting list for the Milton properties, which is not a guarantee, but a ray of hope. 12 units in a very low income bracket out of 240 units. So I'm worried because I've been in the shelter for 1 year and people are bouncing around back and forth because you can't stay that long, which is why I'm here today to ask the ICAC and the Board of Supervisors to allocate funds to this temporary shelter to make it a temporary permanent shelter, or to raise the percentage of very low income in these housing projects that were created in the name of homelessness. That's how these projects were funded. Jackie Spears stated, compassion is a key value that we use to view every issue. And this is an issue that I'm watching people leave the shelter, and I'm just hoping that I don't have to be one of them. So I'm hoping you guys hear what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Zoom public comments, we have 1 hand raised. Marjorie Singer, when you're ready, you may begin. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak.
I have 2 questions. The first question is, what's the current status of hiring the not ombudsman, the person who's supposed to be overseeing the sheriff's department from outside the sheriff's department? And the second question I have is, if there are issues that are basically stalled out that were not dealt with by the previous sheriff, what are our alternatives for bringing those issues to the attention of the current sheriff? There's a situation right now involving a smoke shop on Fifth Avenue, and it hasn't gotten handled. So I'd like to know how we get that in front of the sheriff, hopefully with the help of the commission.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Okay, next speaker is X. You may begin when you're ready.
Yes, I am speaking tonight because I am deeply concerned about the credibility of this commission and particularly the leadership of Kalima. When statements are made publicly that do not match the record, the public notices. When representations are made about transparency that do not align with what actually occurred in the meetings, the public notices. And when those inconsistencies are not corrected by the rest of the commission, the public notices too. Oversight only works if it is honest. If information presented to the committee is incomplete, misleading, or flat out lies, it undermines trust in the Independent Civilian Advisory Commission as a whole. What concerns me just as much is the silence. When leadership makes statements that are not truthful, it is the responsibility of fellow commissioners to speak up, ask questions, and insist on clarity. Failing to do so creates appearance of corruption rather than oversight. This commission was created to provide independent civilian review. Independence requires transparency, and it requires a willingness to correct the record when necessary. I urge the commission to recommit to factual accuracy in public statements and to hold itself to the same accountability standards it expects from others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
There are no more public comments at this time.
All right, great. Let's moving on to the agenda. Unless there's any changes, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. And again, unless there's any need to make any changes, can I get a motion to approve the January 7th minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Can we move on because there's no comment. Okay. Item number 5 is a discussion item for us. If anyone has had their ride-alongs or jail tours, this is an opportunity to report out or share anything that you would like your fellow commissioners to know. So I'm just going to open up to the floor if anyone has completed or has anything to share. Go ahead. Commissioner Melico.
Thank you. I toured the jail twice as a commissioner, and I'd like to acknowledge a positive shift that's happened. On my first visit, I had only seen one program in operation. And when we went this last week, we saw several and that were simultaneously taking place. So it really shows great potential because but I'm unclear how often the programs are provided and how many people are allowed to participate in the programs. Because I think that programs, I mean, I really want to emphasize how valuable programs are, both to the inmates and to the staff in the jails. Because it strengthens the inmate stability, it reduces behavioral issues, and it improves the reentry outcomes for the inmates and therefore reduces recidivism. So that was one of my feelings about it. The other thing is that I have to say, Melissa Wagner, Captain Fogarty, and a lieutenant gave us a tour of the jail, and then afterwards gave us the opportunity just to sit and discuss what was going on and what they felt would be helpful. And it brought to me and to my attention something I didn't know about. And one was the immediate need for a sobering station. Because apparently Star Vista closed in May 2025. And so what happens is that means you bring all the public drunks or other issues to the jail, and it doubled the number of bookings. So it's like, we need to treat people with problems differently, not just put them into the jail. And we shouldn't be using our jail facilities for this issue. So I just I know that they're looking to have a new site. There's a new provider. I know I personally had dropped off people at Palm Avenue. And maybe we could be looking at the old site. But because getting a new site is just, to do something like this in any county is very difficult. So I would just like to see us at least find out more about how we can help move this along so that the jail staff have the opportunity, in the patrol have the opportunity to use a sobering site. The other issue that was brought up was the issue of retaining staff and incentives. And I think it's more than money to retain staff. I used to run a nonprofit and we didn't pay and my staff stayed. There's a lot you can do to reward people in other ways and to appreciate people. I think it's the most rewarding is appreciation. But and then if we could do incentives, financial incentives, but just to be looking and taking it into account that it's cheaper for us to keep staff after they've been trained than to keep on training new staff. And then the last one is certainly something that none of us can do, but maybe in the pie in the future is affordable housing for law enforcement. And they're talking about not apartments, but homes. So, I mean, that's certainly long-term. But I thought those were three things that were brought up to me that I thought is worth us at least considering.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have anything that they'd like to share? Commissioner Solano?
Thank you. And first, I'd like to thank the sheriff and his staff for giving us the experience relative to the ride along that I did on Monday, but also the tour of the jail, which I also did. And the two things that I really like to emphasize with the jail is the jail, by setting up all these rehabilitation programs for all the inductees, except that after they're released into the community, it falls under responsibility of whatever the nonprofit organization to follow up and to make sure that they follow whatever the program, either the chef program or the rehabilitation of narcotics stuff. But those were the areas that I saw. And of course, Shirley mentioned the staffing aspect. There should be more staffing. The second thing that I saw, and I also observed from Captain Fogarty, was there isn't a direct accountability for the sheriff's office to deal with vendors. An example is the elevator that was broken for so long, and Captain Fogarty basically was jumping through hoops to try to get those elevators to work and to get those vendors to get in line. But he wasn't a direct report. He had to go through Public Works. And I think that's important that the sheriff's office, with the maintenance of the facility, including the elevators and stuff, that they have a direct report. So I'll continue on when everybody else has their report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Through the chair, I can respond a little bit to some of the comments from Commissioner Melnico, if that's okay. One, you raised a good point about the sobering station. There's a current plan to install a new sobering station along with a residential detox and treatment center at 101 El Camino in San Mateo County. It's generating some controversy. And there was an article in the Daily Journal today about that. I just wanted to share that for commissioners, just so that they're aware there is the current option that's being considered and thought through. With regards to housing for county workforce, we do have plans for housing for county workforce that would include law enforcement potentially. One site is kitty corner to here at the law library. That'll be one of our first sites that we beta test doing this for, but the county has committed to county Board of Supervisors has challenged the housing department to find 500 units in the county. And so that's a process that's underway. In addition to that, the county has some down payment assistance programs that we're going to be expanding shortly. So recognizing that this is a very expensive area, that wages are unlikely to make up for the dramatically high cost of housing and living, there are some programs that the county is instituting to try to deal with that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. Great. Anything else? Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Hey, members of the public, if you wish to speak on item number 5, thank you. Please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. You'll be granted 2 minutes to speak. We do have one speaker slip from Nancy Goodman. You may come up to the podium and you may begin when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm Nancy Goodman from Redwood City. And thank you, Commissioner Melnick, for the sobering station and Adam for supporting it. I totally agree, because I read that article that they double the amount of DUI bookings between May and September, an extra 260 people or something booked into the jail for DUI, which is not what we need in our jail. So I would ask maybe the commission to consider recommending to the Board of Supervisors that they really advocate for the sobering station. I know the neighbors are pushing back, but I think your advice, that's a good thing you could advise them on, and it could make a difference. We do need it. Thank you both.
Thank you. Last call for public comment. Okay, there are no more public comment.
Okay, great. I've been really busy at work, so I haven't done my ride along yet, but I'm hoping to do it in the next couple of weeks. So I'll get back to everyone. The next item on our agenda is the discussion and possible motion to approve our draft bylaws. So hopefully everyone had a chance to review them, and opening up now to see if anyone has any questions or comments, edits.
I just want to say that I had some questions and comments, and staff responded to those questions, and I think ended up with some revisions, but essentially all my questions were answered prior to the meeting.
So one of the issues was on, and if we get some clarification on the committees, and if the committee includes a person who's not a member of that commission, does that change any of the rules?
Can you,
And I'm sorry, I'm
specify?
on section 6.1 on subcommittees on the last page. And it says, subcommittees may be established, which may include persons who are not members of the commission. So if we have a subcommittee with members who are not members of the commission, is that okay?
So it's legally okay, but it has an impact, which it means that subcommittee is, well, everyone's subject to the Brown Act, but every meeting would be a Brown Act meeting. So while it is legally permissible, and that's why it's in the bylaws, it's legally permissible, I don't know that it's the most flexible way of getting business done.
And just to clarify for people who don't understand governance, when you say every meeting is a Brown Act meeting, what does that mean?
It means that every meeting of that committee needs to be noticed with 72 hours of notice. It needs to be open. And again, transparency is great. It's great for members of the public to participate. But committee work tends to be the work that is more flexible, where you want to be able to act quickly and if you appoint someone who is not a member of the commission, it means that you can't act quickly. It has to be at a public meeting. It has to be very formal, and the type of work that is usually most effective as a committee is not consistent with that.
Thank you. So that would be my only suggestion. When we first thought about this, we didn't think about that unknown repercussion. So possibly removing that and just keeping our subcommittees for our commission members. Because usually the whole purpose of having a subcommittee is so that we don't have to agendize it within 72 hours and do all that process to meet. It's so that we have flexibility to meet and then come back to our commission members to report out. So that would be the one change that I suggest. And then Alexis, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lewis, I saw your hand up. No. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just have one, yeah. Under, where it talks about the Article 2 Commission's duties, functions, and powers, under letter G, I'd like the committee to consider putting in there something that we as a commission work with the sheriff's office as a team.
Where are you at again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Adding to G.
Oh,
G,
adding to G.
2G.
One more.
2G under kind of, if we could discuss putting something under section F, where that we as a committee work as a team with the sheriff's office when requested. So our committee doesn't be an adversary situation between the sheriff's office and our committee. It's more or less to work more team concept, work collectively together. If we could put something in there like that, where it's an option for us to do that. An example that came up was in our committee that Shirley and I are on, we talked about going out to the community and the sheriff's office being in Millbrae, being in San Carlos, that not only us as a committee to go out for outreach, but to also have a representative from the sheriff's office to be there too. So it's really, I didn't see anything in there that worked with a teamwork concept, especially under community relations.
That's addressed in C, in 2C, Rob, look at 2C.
2C. Well, it doesn't really talk about the teamwork concept that we're working together. It talks about the community outreach, but it really doesn't bring in both. And I think that's important that, as I said, so that we don't be an adversary between the sheriff's office and ourselves. And it's a collective effort for us as a committee in the sheriff's office to go forward so that they can be successful.
So I 100% agree that we need to work with the sheriff's office and, as appropriate, teamwork and working together for outreach and various different things. And I think, generally speaking, we would not be in an adversarial role with the sheriff's department. I would be concerned because we're an independent citizens advisory commission that putting in, working together or teamwork with the sheriff's office might be misconstrued, that it's removing that independence. And so I think it's completely I think we do work with the sheriff's office in terms of asking for their input and various different things. I don't know that it needs to be embodied in the bylaws, and I wouldn't want the public to feel that we're cozying up to the sheriff's department, which I don't think is your intent at all. But I would just be concerned about what that wording might be that maintains that independence.
Yeah, my concern is I don't like to use words that it's how do we measure that? So who's defining working as a team? How do you define that? And then, so I think it's more sticking to things that are clear and not up to interpretation is when it comes to bylaws. So and then the other part of this is that we are a commission to the Board of Soup. So I think the relationship to the Board of Supervisors is laid out here because that's the organization that we serve under. So I think adding something in here about the sheriff's department will further cause confusion for people in the public.
Well, if we're supposed to represent the community and be representatives of the Board of Supervisors, I think it behooves us to also take that other segment, which is the sheriff's office, and bring them into the if you want to call it decision-making or influential part of how we're going forward with it. I mean, we have someone from the county executive's office. We have someone from the county attorney's office. And this is supposed to be an oversight of the sheriff's office. And, sheriff's office should be able to come to us and say, we have staffing issues. We have this aspect with the jail, with the elevators, and not having a direct response from a vendor if we're dealing with facilities and management. So they should be able to come to us, and collectively we should help them with their plight to be successful. And we pretty much cover everything else, but I think to be an effective oversight, you have to understand the problems of who you're oversighting. And I think by putting something in there like that defines part of our mission.
Let's go ahead.
First, I just note, and I'm not trying to influence the discussion at all, but that section, I believe, is pulled directly from the resolution that the board adopted. So, I don't know that I would modify any of the language since it really does come directly from the board's resolution authorizing the commission. But to the extent there was a desire from the commission for me to propose some language and put it somewhere, I can propose some language and I can put it somewhere. But I'm not sensing that at this point is the wish of the commission. But if it is, let me know.
So going to that 6.1, that was kind of a response to Rob's suggestion, but on 6.1 and 6.2, so David, is there an issue? Is there a problem with having for ad hoc committees? Can it include persons who are not members of the commission without causing that ad hoc committee to become a Brown Act? I don't remember.
I thought you were teasing me for a second, which I deserve. Let me be clear. So I think that in general, the technical answer is no, but the practical answer is yes. And I'll focus on the practical answer. Generally speaking, and I'm not using this as a way to get around the prohibition, but generally speaking, when there's an issue where you want to bring in people from with other experience that are important, it's generally better to work through staff. So rather than having the commission form a committee, because if the commission forms a committee, whether it's ad hoc or whether it's permanent, if it adds a member that is not a member of the commission, it creates a new Brown Act body. And so the way to address that is just work through staff. Staff can convene people, bring them together, members of the commission, less than a quorum, and folks who have experience, and they can talk about issues and report back to the commission.
And that's what I thought the answer was going to be. So I think we should take out in 6.2 the same language, so that 6.1 and 6.2 are, we can have subcommittees, we can have ad hoc committees.
So I'm very supportive of that. If you want to strike that out, you can also leave it in. It's lawful either way. It just depends on what you think is going to be clearer to you and members of the public. Either way is fine.
Then let's leave it in.
I would like to see where we actually put down that a subcommittee, as long as there's 3 or less, then we're not violating the Brown Act, and just have it in here.
I'm sorry. I was taking direction from my client over here. He's actually thinking it's best to strike it. And it's easy to do, so we can just do that. And if you want to adopt these today, I'll make sure that any motion includes that, and we can revise it after the fact. And I'm sorry, I got distracted.
So it's okay, because she was saying there's a way around it, but we're striking it, so we're not going to do it.
Oh, I agree in striking it.
Okay.
My point is that for the next commissioners, like a subcommittee, it's nice to know the number. We already know how many is on the committee. So if we say there's 3 or less, that we can meet. I mean, so that we're not violating the Brown Act. Otherwise, we have to make it a public meeting. So
Well, this was about adding people who are not
well, I
commissioners.
understand that.
Yeah, but that's
Asking for that we also add. I'm
Oh.
happy to strike, which may include, but I just would like to define subcommittee or ad hoc committee. So for us, that we know if 3 of us meet, we're not violating the Brown Act.
Well, it depends on the size of the body.
We know
So,
the size.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can address the comment by either adding to this less than a quorum, or adding. That would be my suggestion, and we can do that as well via motion.
Can you clarify exactly what we're doing? We're just striking, which may include on both
On both.
6.1 and 6.2?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other reason, I just want to speak to this really quickly. One of the reasons why we're drafting bylaws is because I incorrectly thought that in bylaws, that in the county commission bylaws, that there was something about missing meetings, which is not true. And so I apologize for making that error. It was not malicious, but this is just something that for my entire time of being in county commissions, I had heard, like, if you miss more than 3 meetings, you have to leave the commission. So now that we have bylaws, and that's one of the things that's in here, is rules about attendance. So again, I am a human being who makes errors, and that is an error that I made, and I have no problem admitting it and apologizing for making that error. And this is one of the things that we're doing to correct that error. So I'm glad that we have these drafted now. And with that, I'm going to move on to.
And Chair, I just wanted to validate that I had consistently heard that was a practice within the county as well. Whether it was, formally rendered as a policy is a different matter, and now we're addressing that through these bylaws and policies. I just want to validate what you're saying.
No worries, thank you. And now that I have it, I'd started reading it before, so I don't make any more incorrect statements. And now that you printed it for me, I can read through the rest of it to make sure that I commit it to memory and my service to you as chair. So thank you. And now I open up to public comment.
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on item number 6, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or submit a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. We have one speaker slip, Trina Patton. Please please come up to the podium when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Trina Patton from Belmont, and I wanted to just voice my support for keeping the commission, keeping a very firm line of independence from the sheriff's office. I think it's a great idea if everybody can work cooperatively, and certainly that's the goal. But this meeting is not the sheriff's meeting. And I think it's important to make sure that there isn't any appearance of the sheriff's office using the commission to, spread its message or do the sheriff's office bidding. Nothing precludes the sheriff's office from coming here to give information, to tell the public what they want you and the rest of us to know. And I think they should be encouraged to do that. But this meeting is not for the sheriff, it is for the community. And so I think that line should just be very firm and focus on the independents. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Zoom public comment, we have one hand raised. X, you may begin when you're ready.
Yes, first, I'd like to say the 3 consecutive meetings in a row. Before you adopt that, you might want to speak with Jackie Spears. I had a meeting with her and she thought it was ridiculous that you had to miss 3 consecutive meetings in a row. It should just be 3 meetings in a row in a year, or no, excuse me, 3 meetings in a year is enough to be removed. However, I heard Connie Moss' statement that it was an error because she thought it was in the county commissioner's bylaws. I'd like to see where those county commission bylaws were. And I even pointed this out to her in an email, and she stopped communicating with me when she knew I called her out. Also, Marco Durazo was no longer on the commission in January. Kalima made her statement that pursuant to the bylaws, he had missed 3 meetings and was going to be removed at the end of April. How did she not know that he had missed the January, February, and March meetings when she made her statement? And why doesn't she correct the entire thing and state exactly why Marco Durazo is no longer on the commission? I do not accept an apology. There was no bylaws, and this is just covering your ass now. And I'd like a formal apology and a statement as to exactly why Marco Durazo is no longer on the commission, as opposed to saying that he missed 3 meetings in a row. Because if that's the real reason that he's no longer on the commission, he should be brought back on the commission and Reggie should be removed. Also, the other people that have actually missed 3 meetings should be removed. It's unethical. It's defamatory to me that the truth isn't coming out. And I recommend anybody that wants to know the truth, look at the agenda packet tonight and the attachments, and you'll see exactly why Marco Durazo is no longer on the commission and exactly where Kalima lied. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. There are no more public comment.
Okay, great. So I don't know if there's any other comments on the bylaws that we have now. Anyone want to make any changes? If not, this is the draft. If you have any changes that you could think of, you could send it in, and then we could continue working on it and bring it back for a vote at our next meeting. Yeah. Okay.
If there are no recommended changes, can we make a motion to approve, subject to?
Can we approve it?
What's that?
Oh, I said, can we approve it today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not ready, so I would.
Okay.
Oh, then never mind. We'll
Then
be back.
let's
Nor am I.
Okay, then let's bring it back.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, it does say possible motion to approve. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So now we are going to invite our sheriff up to give us a 90-day report out. So welcome, our sheriff and undersheriff.
Thank you, Madam Chair and honorable members of the board. Ken Binder, Sheriff, along with Under Sheriff Chris Shung. And this is a 90-day report. So next slide. So as you know, I was appointed on November 12th of 2025. So it's just been a little bit over 90 days. And one of the first things that I wanted to do was to provide some stability for the organization. It had been through a lot the last year or two. And so as you can see, one of the first orders of business was to assemble the executive command team. And during that process of appointment, I told the board and the public that I wanted to bring back Under Sheriff Chris Shung, who is here, and you're going to hear from him tonight as well. And I also was asked from the agency, being an outsider, are you going to bring people from your old county in with you to do business? And I told everyone, no, that was not the plan. I know there's a lot of talent here, and I wanted to get in and get to know the organization and then utilize the latent talent there. So part of building this executive team was after I brought back Chris Shung and Ryan Monahan, who was a former assistant sheriff as well and known by the department. We had 2 vacant assistant sheriff positions, and one of those positions had not been filled for at least a couple of years over custody, over corrections. And as everyone is aware, corrections is really a high liability bureau. It's really important that those in our care are treated and cared for with the utmost professionalism. And so we wanted to make sure that we had appropriate managerial oversight. So we did an internal process for internal candidates. It was, and my commitment, not only for these assistant sheriff positions, but we're currently in the process of testing for captain, lieutenant, and then we've already made a couple of promotions for sergeant, but is that they would be objective, that they would be based upon merit. We want a meritocracy. We will not have a culture at the sheriff's office that is based on networking, who you know, are you friends with an assistant sheriff or the sheriff? Did you contribute to the sheriff's campaign? Whose side were you on during the last election? We're getting away from that. This is going to be strictly based on meritocracy, someone's work experience, and then coupled with their integrity. We would never promote someone that we had integrity concerns about. So with that commitment, we had 4 candidates testing for 2 of the positions, and the 2 selections were Assistant Sheriff Frank Del Porto, who oversees our jails, and he has extensive jail experience and had worked within the Corrections Bureau at different ranks. And then we had Assistant Sheriff Mark Myers over our operations as an assistant sheriff, and he has extensive street patrol experience. And he's been a member, commander or member of the SWAT team throughout the years as well, and was one of our bureau police chiefs in San Carlos. So he understands the day in and day out working operations. So we were excited about those promotions. Also, with the upcoming captain positions, we're right now in the middle of that process. Not only was there a vacant assistant sheriff over corrections for the last couple of years, but there was also a vacant captain position. So we had 1 captain overseeing 2 jail facilities and no assistant sheriff for support. So we've filled the assistant sheriff spot. We have 1 captain in now, Captain Bill Fogarty, who you know, and we're going to promote another captain into one of the other facilities. So we'll have a captain over each facility, which will give better eyes into the daily operations for each of our facilities to make sure that we have best practices occurring within there. After we promote captains, and we'll have those promotions done within the next week or 2, most likely. We'll at least announce, and then it'll take some time for movement to actually for the logistics to occur. But after that, we're going to promote lieutenants. We have 4 internal candidates right now that are testing for those positions. And since I've taken office in the last 90 plus days, we've promoted 2 sergeants. One of them, we've promoted 2 sergeants, promoted 6 deputies into our detective bureau, and we've hired 6 deputies and correctional officers and 4 professional staff members. We have additional hire dates for new staff in May and in late summer, with approximately 25 applicants currently now in various stages of the background process. 6 people have graduated from the academy since December, and an additional 15 deputies are scheduled to graduate by the end of April. So our staffing numbers will come up. We did have some retirements that occur every March, so, but this will more than balance out for that as they're coming in. Corrections academies, we have 7 have graduated since November and 1 more on May 1st. So with that, let's go to the next slide and I'll pass it off to Under Sheriff Shaw.
Good evening, Chair, Co-Chair, and committee members. It's an honor to be here before each night. I just want to spend this slide speaking a little bit about culture. From the first day Sheriff Binder came in, we understood that policy and rules and regulations is the ground floor, meaning that's the bare minimum standard, that's the low bar. Culture is what sets an organization apart. Culture is what the high bar is, and it's what, think of any organization you've ever dealt with. It's the difference between good customer service and bad. It's the difference between employees that feel a passion and purpose for what they do. And so from day one, it's been the strategy and the practice and the behavior of our leadership team to model what a vibrant culture looks like. In most public safety agencies, you can have a culture by design or a culture by default. And let me define that for you. A culture by default just happens. Leadership doesn't talk about culture. They just kind of hit people over the head with policy and procedure, and it becomes what we know as a toxic work environment. As opposed to that is a culture by design where leadership plants a flag and says, this is where we're going, this is where we're headed. These are the minimal acceptable standards, but the high bar is that we strive for excellence each and every day. The differentiator, that we see is how our services are provided to the public, not just what we do. You take any police or sheriff's agency across the country, what we do is largely very similar. How we do it is the differentiator. And here and now, we want you to know we're very proud of how we provide our services, and we will continue to improve each and every day. I think one of the commissioners earlier spoke about purpose or incentives for staff. We see our responsibility as leadership is that those that work in the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office should feel passionate about what they do every day. They should be excited to come to work. And if they're not, that's the responsibility of leadership. That's the lever that we can pull, is to create cultures that people enjoy coming to work, that they're treated with dignity and respect and humanity. And as Sheriff Binder likes to say, healthy deputies treat the community in healthy ways. And I'm happy to report, and I'll close out with this, is that you hear a lot of laughter in the hallways these days. You hear a lot of buzz of just people enjoying being around each other. And it's a great environment to be in. Sure.
Well said, thank you. Next slide. Community partnerships. One of the 3 pillars that I've been talking to our staff about as we come in is community engagement. And we have units dedicated to that, which I'll briefly touch on in a minute. But what I'm telling our staff is we don't just leave it to those units. It's every single one of us in the sheriff's office, from myself on down to the brand new deputy who just graduated. It's important that all of us are those ambassadors for the county, for the sheriff's office, and for the law enforcement profession, that we should be engaging with the community, and that every contact we may make matters, that it makes a difference. In fact, they say the average person comes into contact with law enforcement about once every 7 years. Whether it's pulled over for a traffic violation, or you're a victim of maybe a car burglary, or whatever it is. The general person out there comes in contact about once every 7 years. And for deputies, they're talking to people every single day, so they may, it just becomes routine. But for the person that only sees a deputy once every 7 years, everything the deputy says, they remember, and it matters to them. So I'm reminding our deputies that be careful with your words, make sure what you're saying is correct, say it in the right way as well as possible, and try to leave that contact in a positive way as much as possible. So that's what we're doing in terms of building the culture of that mindset, that community engagement mindset for our deputies. And then in the last 90 days, I've I've actually done several community meet and greets. I've gone to community meetings. I met with all of our contract cities. So, we've definitely been busy, my team and I. And I also had mentioned earlier our community engagement team. So we've got a unit called CARE-ON, which I'm pretty proud of. It's a Community Alliance to Revitalize Our Neighborhoods. And their focus really is to bridge the gap between immigrant families and law enforcement. Part of our commitment is to make sure that we build that trust with the community. We want people to be able to call 911 and not fearful that we're going to do anything but be there to help, respond to whatever the emergency is, and to provide that professional service. Part of what CARE-ON does, some of the programs they do is we've got a parent project, which is a 10-week class to give parents healthy tools to communicate with their teenagers. I have a daughter who's not a teenager anymore, but I could have used maybe one of these classes back in the day just to get some better tools, but we survived and she's doing well. We have community academies that help connect the community and help people understand what we do and why we do it. And sometimes, that can make all the difference in the world. I remember even going through the police academy, and I had been pulled over, and I had had police contact before I got hired, and had received citations for my driving, and so I didn't understand exactly what the police did and why they did it and all that. But I remember my eyes being opened as they were teaching us procedure, and it just kind of dawned on me like, oh, that's why the police do this. So one of the things for police citizens or for a resident academy is that try to help people understand what we do and why we do it. It demystifies it. We have educational workshops and all hands on deck trainings to help community members learn daily life skills and better themselves. We have a Donuts with Deputies at the schools. Every cop loves a donut. And it's for students and their families to help again, just try to build that trust and connection. We also have the Sheriff's Activities League, which is a group that focuses on the youth of the community. So CARE-ON, it tends to be more focused on adults, and SAL is more focused on youth. In the future, one of the things that I would like to do during my tenure with the Sheriff's Office is we want to expand what we're doing with the youth. And so we're right now behind the scenes looking at ways for how we can do that. But we want to take the focus not just on gifts and handouts and doing cool events for the kids, which is good. We're going to continue to do that. But we want to look at what type of diversion activities can we do for kids and youth who have made mistakes, rather than juvenile hall, probation, that sort of thing. So we're going to enhance our focus somehow with youth, and we're still figuring that out. But that's one of the things, and we want to be able to provide educational classes and training to youth as well. And one of the other things, at some point, we're keeping an eye on what's happening with the sobering station that was brought earlier, and watching to see what happens there, because the sobering station was closed in 2025, and I would like to have alternatives to bring folks as well, so that we do keep our bookings down, and we provide a place where people can get resources if they're battling with addiction, alcohol, drugs, because it would be better to solve the problem rather than to just continue to put people in jail. So with that, we can go to the next slide, and Under Sheriff Shaw.
So many of us recently enjoyed the Super Bowl. A little trivia is Super Bowl planning takes about a year in advance from the law enforcement perspective. So right now, planning is already going on for the next one. And that's because Super Bowls are considered top tier national security events. They're lumped up there with the World Series, with presidential inaugurations. So an incredible amount of safety resources are activated. And being a sheriff's office, and especially because of our proximity to Levi Stadium, we have the transit line, as you know. We were very much involved in that. So public safety at these events is very much of a team sport as well. It's almost invisible to the public, but it's fascinating to watch the amount of coordination we had. If you were to go spend Super Bowl Sunday not in front of a TV or not in front of a barbecue, and you were to ride the rail system, you would actually see many, many deputies up and down the rail line at each of the stations working with our partner municipal agencies. Our federal partners, we were on live chat rooms with them from across the country looking at real-time threat assessments. And so if you take that, and many of you are familiar with the upcoming FIFA World Cup, right? So FIFA is basically 3 weeks of Super Bowls. And so planning has already been done. All of this is done by our Emergency Services Bureau. So it's an incredibly talented group of folks who are very well versed in emergency planning. It's the same bureau that does search and rescue. It's the same bureau that does mutual aid assistance. If there's a disaster in the county, they're the ones who coordinate and work with emergency management to really get our folks, our residents, the aid that they need. So in many aspects, we hope that this is an uneventful FIFA World Cup. We're watching, and we're with our law enforcement partners, state, local, federal, and so working diligently on the preventative side and just watching for anything. But it's going as planned with no surprises to date. So I'll knock on wood for that. Sure.
Thank you. And last slide. Fiscal responsibility. One of the things I talked about when I was testing for the appointment was that I wanted to make sure our office was fiscally sound. And you know, I look at the funding that the county provides. It's the people's money. It's not coming out of my personal bank account, but I shouldn't spend it like it's not coming out of my personal bank account. I'm a resident and a voter, and I would expect local government, including the sheriff's office, to be wise with my money. So I take that attitude in with what we're doing here at the sheriff's office. So one of the things we've been doing is we've been evaluating contracts, and we've been looking at how our spending is. We've canceled some. In fact, there's a contract in particular with a contractor that had to do with SCAP funding, and that violates what we're willing to do in terms of we're not going to cooperate with ICE, and so nor are we going to provide any names or data or anything like that. So we revoked a contract that was in place regarding SCAP funding. We're working hand in hand with the county executive's office to build back our reserve balances and restore fiscal sustainability. And really, one of the things I wanted to do that I said if I got into the sheriff's office was that I wanted to have an audit done. So the county executive's office again, and the chief financial officer and I have been working. We have a contract in place for an independent third party consulting firm to come in, and they've already started their work just to audit our fiscal finances, our overtime spending, and I think they're gonna look at budget related items that could include contracts, and they will come up with a report and make recommendations, and then we're going to go from there. But I am committed to making sure that we spend our money properly, and that the money is spent for the priorities of the county and the community to make sure public safety is what it's supposed to be. So with that, if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer.
Thank you so much. Opening up to anyone who has any questions or comments. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff and the Sheriff. Looks like you've highlighted everything that I would ever ask you for. You went over your budget, your staffing, your recruitment, your training, your succession planning, promotion within and your community relationships. So thank you. You've touched every point that I would ever ask you, so thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Sheriff, thank you for the job you're doing. Sounds like you're off to a great start. What struck me was the comment you made about a citizen gets touched by a police officer about every 7 years. That's really important because it's that first contact, I think, makes the most impression. People say it's always the first thing and the last thing. So those two things are very important. So I hope that you instill that into your new recruits as they come in. That first contact is the most important.
Excellent point. I will add that to my graduation speech
All
when I
right.
talk to them.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I like it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank you both for the report because it's very energizing, and I think you're going in the right direction. And I really want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I'll just say what I was going to say and then open up for whatever. So I do want to thank both of you for coming here. It's nice to have a report out, and then we have our next agenda item. We talk about how frequently we do this. So hopefully we get a good cadence. It is your first 90 days. Change takes a long time. So I appreciate that we're getting started, and the things that I thought about in listening to you. And when I say these things, knowing like institutions, change takes years. This is not to do it tomorrow. Looking at the field positions and just wondering the number of vacancies that are still left and just if it's possible to get that information. And then also looking at diversity and hire. And I understand it's challenging. I had a meeting with our undersheriff before, and I told him that I couch everything in education because that's my background. So I'm just going to do that now. But when we're talking about who becomes a teacher, it's not people who had a horrible time in education, right? Teachers are folks who loved school. And so when we're looking at then, who goes in law enforcement, and I think if we were to pull, it's not going to be folks who had horrible experiences with law enforcement. But however, that lived experience and that knowledge is something that I think would be beneficial. So, and I say that in saying I know that you're hiring from a certain pool, and that certain pool, we know that your experience is tied to sometimes race and gender. So it's harder if you don't have a diverse pool. So thinking about in what ways can we help diversify that pool? I know that there's programs at community colleges and other places. Like how can we help diversify and maybe look into in that diversity homegrown?
Thank you so much. If I can just
Yes.
respond to that, because I think that's an excellent point. And in terms of our promotions, we were definitely limited in who was eligible. However, it's funny, I just looked at our diversity demographics. As an office, we're actually we reflect the community. And I looked and we've got this all online if you want to look at our numbers, but we're very reflective of the community. And what I would like to do is to make sure that up and down the ranks were reflective. So it's not just the organization, but actually in upper management, executive management. And that's the part that will take time because we can't grab someone from 2 or 3 ranks down and bring them up because there's too much of a learning curve. We need to have people learn at each rank. But that is something I'm very mindful of. In fact, with our captain's promotion, we have a little more opportunity for diversity, both gender and race and ethnicity. So that's something that we're looking at the whole package. We want to make sure that we hire and promote the best and the brightest, and that's what we're going to do. And we want to make sure it's as equitable as possible.
Thank you for that. And again, going back to education, when we did our diversity study, we realized we were reflective of the community if you included certificated and non-certificated. When you remove non-certificated and we're just looking at our educational teaching staff, the numbers went skewed, right? So I'm glad that you're looking at it that way. We want to ensure that diversity isn't couched in just one area, but is across the organization. I would love to get more information on the different organizations that you spoke about here, Karen, and I'm familiar with PAL because I have a friend that works there, but getting more information about the SAL program. And lastly, I just want to say congratulations on getting to this point. I know onboarding on any job is tough, but onboarding on this particular situation, that was, a Mount Everest climb. So congratulations on getting to your first 90 days. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I
Sorry,
open?
I got a couple.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you both. I feel like I just saw you, and I did. I saw you guys last night, so I've heard some more information. Thanks to San Mateo for putting on a great event. I love culture, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because it is a long game. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It was new to me that you won't be here much longer, right? So you have an 8-month period. So question, and it'll be a 2 pieces. What's the plan for your succession to continue the work? Because I know you love really do the culture stuff. So what's that plan look like to have someone step in to be able to continue the work? Because it can't stop. If it stops, you're starting all over.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
So succession plan for our
you're talking about for
undersheriff?
our undersheriff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, for our undersheriff.
Well, my primary goal is number one, to try to keep him to stay.
I just wanted to get you set on record.
That may not be successful because he's got a really important company or a nonprofit he wants to get to. But yeah, but that's definitely something that we will have to look at behind the scenes. But you mentioned culture, and I appreciate you bringing up the fact that it doesn't happen overnight. And I kind of describe it as like a cruise liner, like a huge ship. You can't just make a quick U-turn. It's going to take a while to make the U-turn. But we have a plan, and actually, Undersheriff, while he's here, this is his expertise, but is really laying out kind of the guideposts for that. But we're setting the vision right now, and it starts with me at the top and my upper exec team. And he does monthly meetings right now, actually, in terms of just to start providing the tools and training for that culture change within the organization. But we start by laying out the vision, setting the expectation, and then we follow it up with action. So when I say promotions are not based on networking or who you know, but your experience, I mean, we've already made promotions. We've already made promotions where it wasn't necessarily someone, when I was coming through the testing process, was supportive of me, but they were the right person for promotion and they got promoted. And I won't say what rank or which person that was, but there is, we are setting the standard, and our actions are following our words. So it takes time to do that. And that's probably why Supervisor Jackie Spears had said, hey, we want someone that's going to be committed long-term, because you can't just come in and fix everything in 1 or 2 or 3 years. We need someone who's going to be here for the long haul. So.
And you talked a little bit about a plan, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that plan looks like, what personnel is involved in it, and how does that trickle down to everyone in the office.
So to give you, for example, in the recent couple promotional processes we had, we meet with the assessors who we bring in from the outside, independent, of the office. So the people who make recommendations on who we promote are actually all from the outside, and from professional agencies around. And what I told them word for word was, if they answered all your questions and provide a technical knowledge of the job, that's a C+. Like, what makes them a B or even an A+ candidate, that's the culture piece. Like, we want them to embody excellence, human skills, the ability to have a high emotional intelligence, right? And to the ability not just to communicate, but to listen. And so that's what they were tested against. And those are the candidates, when they get through their rankings, those are the ones who kind of bubble up to the top, right? And then the trainings that the sheriff mentioned, those trainings are not just given to those with title. One thing you would hear if you were in the sheriff's office would be, rank doesn't make you a leader. Everyone is a leader. Everyone who has influence is a leader. So that by that definition, everyone has the ability to be a leader. And so the trainings that we've been offering are open to the entire office, both sworn and professional staff. That does a couple things. That gives them inspiration. You know, people who thought that they were in assignments that were dead end or thought their voice didn't matter, suddenly they have a voice, they have purpose, they have a goal. And what I hear is excitement, right? And so we're going to keep building that momentum and capitalizing it. I think the first session we had, we put it out to the office and about 70 people signed up. And then it was recorded for those that couldn't work. Obviously, we're a 24/7 operation. I believe about 30 to 40 more signed up. And we saw similar numbers the second month. And so that's going to be ongoing. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about that topic. So I'll do everything I can to embed that into the DNA of the culture. And my belief is that it'll be self-perpetuating.
Yeah, and it will be reinforced with every promotion that we do. It will be reinforced with every time we do discipline and hold people accountable for not when they violate our standards. So that's definitely something the foundation's being laid now, but will continue on for years to come with those in those ways.
Thank you. Public comment?
Members of the public, if you wish to speak on item number 7, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. We have 3 speaker slips. We'll begin with Deacon Lauren McCombs. You may come up to the podium when you're ready.
I've met you before, so I think we're okay. Good evening to all who are present. As you know, my name is Deacon Lauren Patton McCombs, and I'm currently serving at Christ Episcopal Church in Portola Valley and Woodside. I'm also a member of Peninsula Solidarity Cohort and Fixing San Mateo County. Jim Lawrence, Nancy Goodman, and I are representing Fixin in San Mateo County. And DBUG is representing the issues that incarcerated persons and their families are facing. And we've been meeting with the corrections staff to discuss how to get more chaplains and religious services to our jails. And since October, we've had 4 meetings with them. And what I just need to say, we are listening to each other. We are bringing up issues. And we are sharing a collaborative mindset to address what we have brought up before you before, as far as religious services to the jail. And Fixing would like to acknowledge and thank the corrections staff for being transparent in their communication about the issue we have brought forward. That's my son texting his mother in London. If anybody wants to know what the choo-choo sound was, excuse me, I hope anyway. Together, we are working to get more chaplains involved and to provide pastoral, which, as you know, as a deacon, I recognize the importance of that. And there are more hours for chaplains to visit. On one-on-ones, visitations are slowly increasing. So we are seeing steps. We're seeing good momentum being moved forward. And there are now religious materials such as Bibles and Qurans available on the pods for incarcerated persons to have. Each one of these accomplishments has taken time and many discussions, but we're making huge progress in addressing the issues that are necessary for incarcerated persons to have access to pastoral care while they are in jail. So all parties involved will continue to work collaboratively together, because gathering around a table, as we know, and discussing those issues is the way to problem solve. So I want to thank each and every one of you who has made the time and commitment. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Next speaker is Nancy Goodman, followed by Jose Reyes. Nancy, you may come up to the podium.
Hi, I'm Nancy Goodman with Fixin San Mateo County. I live in Redwood City, and I'm speaking on behalf of Fixin San Mateo County on 3 topics. As you know, we are focused on increasing transparency, accountability, and fairness with the Sheriff's Office, and we appreciate this breath of fresh air that you just heard. We really just want public engagement and public safety. So first, thank you to the sheriff and the undersheriff for speaking with us last night on Zoom. It was very well received, and the sheriff again spoke of his goals and priorities, and the undersheriff spoke of the culture change. We were also delighted to have 4 students from Sequoia High School that have been working on civic engagement through a classroom project that they've been doing this whole year. And the YouTube video is on our YouTube channel. So thank you for that. And second, again, as Lauren said, thank you to the corrections staff for being so responsive to the issues about religious services in the jail that we brought up here in May. We have had those 4 meetings, and it's been a small group that's really just focused on collaborative problem solving. The amazing thing is we came up with 10 specific issues, and we have made either resolved or made progress and are working on resolving 8 of the 10 issues. So that is 80% improvement over 4 meetings because we're really focused on it. We do not always agree. It sometimes is an exciting conversation, but we're really trying to look at these things, and they're working on all of them. One of the ones that hasn't been addressed has just to do as a result of the elevator problem. So 80% is really good. They've increased hours and scheduling flexibility and everything. And finally, thank you again to the corrections staff for giving us a tour today. Our tour of McGuire Jail showed us how bad the elevator situation is. You can wait 5 minutes for an elevator because if you're a visitor, they don't want to put you on an elevator with 3 inmates and 2 deputies. So you have to wait for the next elevator. There's only 1 elevator they can use. So I sympathize.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jose Reyes.
What's up, guys? First off, I want to say thank you very much for implementing some change. I want to thank you for, at first I was sitting here and I was wondering, are they doing anything about hate? First, let me say, hate festers hate. And to come out here and make a change in our lives, make a change in my life and have it acknowledged and turning from crime to going to Bible study and getting God in my life and doing good. It starts by coming to an agreement that change has to happen. And so when I heard you mention that you were breaking up the gang units, the cops, the sheriffs that were allowing ugly to go on in there. That was what my fight about the hate was. When we filed grievances and paperwork, we were giving it to the sergeants of the guys that were beating on us, and it wasn't going nowhere. It wasn't being addressed. It was ungrievanceable. It's non-grievanceable. So I'm hoping that you continue, and I thank you for all that you guys are doing, even your donuts. I thank you for all the change that you're doing in this short amount of time. And I thank you for the opportunity to grow and want to be a part of that change. And so I just ask that you continue to bring back the church to the people. We need the mayor, we need the church, we need all of that that helps start the change that I went through out here. That starts there. But it also starts at not allowing the abuse and the neglect of our concerns while we're in there. And then that was what was happening a lot. It was our concerns or complaints weren't being addressed. So I hope that you'll look into that, and thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Zoom public comments, we have one hand raised. Marjorie Singer, you may begin when you're ready.
Yeah, now that you've been in your position for the last 90 days, I'm wondering if you would be willing to go on the record and see. Now that you've been in office for 90 days and hopefully have dealt with some of the backlog of issues that had piled up when you arrived, I'm wondering if you would be willing to state as part of this meeting, how we get in touch with you to provide information about issues that have still not been addressed, that stalled out under your predecessor.
Are you done now, Marjorie? That's it? That's the only question? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna say yes. Okay, thank you. So did you want to talk about the complaint process or how people can follow up with complaints? We talked about I talked a little bit about the undersheriff, how we get complaints sent to us. Uh, and I know there's been work on the forms that you have, but do you want to talk about what happens if somebody does have a complaint?
Sure. So as part of kind of the first 90 days, we actually reinstituted our Professional Standards Bureau. So that meant forming it back up to a sergeant, a lieutenant, 2 lieutenants actually, to aid in just kind of going through the backlog of complaints. So each and every complaint, regardless of who files it, where it's filed, is investigated to the fullest. There is a backlog, but we're actually making significant headway on that. And so I want the public to know with confidence that if there is a complaint, we will take receipt of it and we will do our due diligence. You know, and I know there's certainly, we talked about this before, but there's formalities that we have to do when there is a complaint. We want to respect people's fear and discomfort with dealing with law enforcement. We understand that. So we're open to different ideas, but sometimes hypothetically, you know, if it's an anonymous complaint and the process doesn't allow for follow-up questions, it's very hard to do a thorough investigation, just as an example. And so the key is to have a thorough, robust intake process that allows for that somehow. We know ultimately our work in continually building trust with the community will help in the long run, because ultimately it's about trust and faith in the system and our office.
Thank you. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. No? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item number 8, discussion and direction to our staff regarding the desired frequency of standard reports from the sheriff's office. And so I don't know if anyone had any comments on that, ideas. I was going to suggest quarterly.
4 times a year.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
And then that doesn't preclude if there's something else happening, we get an invitation to come in and discuss an item similar to what we've done in the past. But for a standing report, I was thinking quarterly because coming in every month is a lot. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The other maybe suggestion I would have is the sheriff's department has the right to have a representative on this board. And it would be really nice if we would have a representative from the sheriff's department. The other thing is that I really appreciate it when we've had upper management from the sheriff's department here at our meetings. It's just, it was gratifying, I think, and I felt they were taking us seriously with our comments.
Thank you. So is everyone okay with quarterly? All right, so we're giving you that direction. Thank you. Yep.
Moving on to public comment. If you have a comment on item number 8, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or submit a public comment card to the clerk. We have one slip from Trina Patton. You may come up to the podium when you're ready.
Thank you again, Trina Patton from Belmont. What I'm interested in is something I've talked about in the past, and that has to do with the complaint process. Having the complaints about the sheriff go to the sheriff is like me doing my own performance evaluation for work. I rate myself excellent. If they ask me if there are any problems, I just say, not that I'm aware of, you know. So Sheriff Bender and Under Sheriff Shung talk about redefining the culture. And I think part of redefining the culture has to involve looking at doing things in a way that they are not used to doing. Historically, law enforcement agencies are not used to having to answer to the community about their practices and their procedures and why something happened the way it happened. And we may not always agree, but I think it's important that the conversation be had. Um, so again, I'm very much in favor of removing the complaint process from the sheriff's office, because what you wind up with is the sheriff telling us what the complaints were, but we have no way of verifying if those were the only ones. I know this board has gotten complaints. Fix in San Mateo gets complaints all the time, and they send them to us because they don't want to send them to the sheriff's office. And also, having an outsider look at the complaints can help maybe identify patterns. They can see something from a different perspective that could be helpful to the department. And I know people like to talk about transparency, and I will just say one of my colleagues in Fix in San Mateo said at one of the first ICAC meetings that an agency giving information that they want the public to have is public relations. An agency giving information they'd rather the public not know is actual transparency. And I think that's a great way to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Last call for public comment. There are no hands raised.
Okay, great. So moving on to, do we need a motion for this? No. Okay, great. Moving on to any commissioner liaison announcements. Any announcements that anyone has?
I don't have an announcement, but more of a comment.
Sure.
Just to talk about the new direction that we're going in. You know, as I was listening to the 90-day report, I heard a couple of times of independent folks being brought in to do financial reviews and also doing some cultural work. But one thing I haven't heard is on this committee, the desire or the need or the willingness to have an independent person come to do some of the things that we talk about as far as complaints and things of that nature. And I think we're in a very unique position as we move into a new era with our office to be able to do things different. We talk about culture and culture shift. The knock on an inspector general or something is more, to me, what I hear is more of a hit on me as an individual. But it's not about an individual, it's about an office and the oversight of an entire office, which can fall not just from the top, but from a lot of the things in between and in the bottom. So I hope that we can really take a look at that. You know, I've been on a honeymoon before. It's great. But once the honeymoon is over and the real work has to be done of sorting through hundreds and hundreds of complaints and trying to get clergy members in, that's when we need folks to really show up in the office, in the community, and on this committee as well. So I just wanted to say that as a person who is independent, try to be a voice for the community, but for us as a county to do the right thing, because we do have a black eye, and it's not just been with this past administration, but the administration before that. So I've heard time and time again, it just takes me to be able to do what I need to do, but that has not been satisfactory for a long time. Thank you.
One of the things I was going to talk about is we had the opportunity, they had asked before if we wanted to come back in for another retreat type discussion. And I had paused because I was like, let's give some time for us to get our ground and hear a little bit more from the sheriff. But I think maybe that would be a good idea to just to have some discussion on some things on, you know, what do we do now? What are our next steps? And I think your comment leads me more into that. Like, we made one recommendation on the Inspector General, like, what do we do with that? Do we follow up on that? Do we move on to something else? and what are our other areas of focus going to be? If we are going to continue the areas of focus that we had from our first retreat, or if we try to, now that we're in a different era, as you said, a different phase, maybe pivot and focus on something else. So I don't know if we want to carve out time to do that in a less structured setting so that we can talk, or if we just want to bring it back as an agenda item for a future meeting. And I'm just looking for guidance for what I do when an agenda building. Go ahead, Commissioner Melnico.
Oh, I would love it if, everything is so, because of the Brown Act, okay, we can't discuss things, but it would really be nice if we, at one of our meetings, could just say, okay, these are some of the issues we'd like to address. I mean, the mail, the religious business, whatever it is, but just so that we get them out. And I know we can't make a decision at any of the meetings, but actually we could ask for information or something. But we could list maybe we only have 4 items that we really want to look at. I mean, I have a question now. Do we want to have community meetings when I hear the sheriff has already been going out to the communities? I mean, is it necessary for us? So that's an issue, and it would be nice for us to actually discuss that. And since even if we have a retreat, it has to be a public meeting. So
yeah, it has to be a public meeting, but it gives us a little more freedom to have an open discussion. So that's why I'm suggesting a retreat, so we can not have to stick to such a formal structure. We don't have to decide now, too, so I can give everyone, if you guys want to just email staff, and then they can let me know what your thoughts are in our next agenda planning meeting. But just putting it out there that there may be something to do, because I have definite thoughts on what you're saying, but then I don't want to stray too much off our agenda, but that's why I would like to have a place where we can do that and have a discussion and not have to stick solely to what's on our agenda. Okay, anybody else? No? Okay, so with that, I am going to call the meeting. Oh, did you want to say something? Okay, I am going to call the meeting to be adjourned. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.